Why does it look like someone's about to come out of the back of my room and murder me? Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about the biggest problem I have with Republicans and people on the right. And of course this is not applicable to all Republicans. I just see this is just a generalization and a common theme that I see with people on the right. And the biggest problem I have with people on the right is their frequent inability to recognize and admit that there are inherent flaws with this country. A lot of people on the right, and especially conservatives, their ideology is dominated by keeping things the same. And when you question the institutions within this country, and when you call out negative aspects of this country, it directly threatens their ideology because it implies that there needs to be change. Generally speaking, liberals try and advocate and call for change, while conservatives try and push back and question that change. And this is a good relationship. You need those push and pull dynamics in order to keep society moving forward without things getting too out of hand. But that relationship becomes very frustrating when conservatives are so focused on keeping things the same that they deny harsh realities about this country. And you see this happening a lot when it comes to topics like race and gender and inequality in general, where you see progress being slowed down or sometimes even stalled completely because conservatives will continue to assert that there is no inherent problems in these areas. And so there's nothing to make progress in because there is no problem. And I think a big reason for this is that a lot of people on the right tend to view contemporary America in a vacuum. And what I mean by that is that they tend to underestimate the effects that history has on the present day. Take modern day racism, for example. Common conservative arguments would be, we have no racist laws in effect. Discrimination by race is illegal in every facet of American society. And we even have laws in place that are designed to uplift communities of color, like affirmative action. So how can you say that America has a race problem? And while all that may be true on the surface, it just completely disregards so much context that is needed in order to have these conversations. For one, it assumes that people are not finding ways to discriminate despite there being laws against it, which is just not true. And two, it very much downplays and sometimes completely disregards the effects that history has on the present day. I mean, we are not even 60 years removed from a time when segregation was legal in this country, and we are not even 200 years removed from a time when slavery was legal in this country. You cannot expect that limited amount of time from these horrific periods in American history not to have cascading and tremendous effects on modern day people. And to give you an example of this, I'm going to show you a clip from Ben Shapiro's latest video where he supposedly debunks the myth of systematic racism.
Kevin's grandparents, on the other hand, got a low-interest loan to buy their first house and got accepted into a handful of top universities, which traditionally only accepted white students. This opened up a wealth of opportunities that they were able to pass on to their kids and grandkids.
The basic assumption of this video is that if your grandparents are rich in the United States, this means that you are rich in the United States. And that if your grandparents are poor in the United States, that means that you are poor in the United States. This is factually untrue. The reality is that income changes over time, that there are an enormous number of people in the United States by percentage who are able to rise from poor to middle class and their children from middle class to wealthy. The biggest problem that we have in the United States right now is not a historic wealth gap. The biggest problem we have is an income gap in the United States.
And that all sounds great, but when you look into the research, it starts to poke holes in that argument. For one, economic mobility is not as easy as Ben is making it seem in this country. And two, historically and in the present, economic mobility is much harder for black people in this country than it is for white people, and it is even harder for black people that are living in the South. And while I do think it is possible for any person in this country to achieve great economic mobility, I think it's kind of ridiculous to assume that the past 200 years of racism in this country is not greatly affecting how black people can achieve economic mobility compared to that of white people. And I encourage you all to watch Ben's video, and I think you'll notice that a lot of his arguments tend to focus on the modern day in a vacuum, and he tends to either completely ignore or at least downplay the effects that past events and circumstances have on the present day. And I think you'll also notice that he very clearly cherry picks a lot of statistics and case studies that he presents in the video, and a simple Google search will present a whole nother perspective that really undermines a lot of his arguments. And Ben is just one example, but I think a lot of people on the right need to learn to accept the fact that America has many inherent flaws within very crucial aspects of its society, and that America is not disjoint from its past, and that the past is still having a lot of effects on modern day life. And with this acceptance, we can work on solving problems rather than debating whether these problems exist. Anyways, that's the biggest problem I see with people on the right. If you like this type of video, I have a video on my channel talking about my biggest problem with people on the left. And if for whatever reason you like me in general, please subscribe. It really helps. And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching.